we are now teammates with a one Chris Lowe, who is one of the best in the business when it comes to what he does. So make sure you have membership here at On 3. But there is an article out right now that is really revealing when it comes to how that the whole discussion around Lane Kiffin is being perceived when it comes to the LSU job and the Florida job and where he's at right now with Ole Miss. So to give you a preface here, Chris Lowe gave Nick Saban a call, and they had a back and forth. They had a discussion, so go check out that article. But there's a quote that stuck out from that article that I think is pretty interesting for us to unpack together as it pertains to Lane Kiffin and him potentially taking another job. This is per Nick Saban, quote, "Jobs that weren't great jobs before are now. Lane Kiffin, is a name that is up for Florida and the first name up for LSU, but I think you can have a long debate on whether either one of those jobs is actually better than the job he has now, because he has some guys over there at Ole Miss that give him pretty much whatever he wants from a roster standpoint." He goes on to say, maybe you've got some alumni who are passionate about football, but are they willing to invest what you have to invest to win? Because a lot of people still don't believe in this stuff. End quote, paraphrasing there on that last word being used there by one Coach Saban. But it's great stuff by Chris Lowe. Go check out that whole article. But the point that Nick Saban brings up is one that we've been banging the drum on here since the Florida job opened up, since the LSU job opened up. And it's not me being down on either one of those jobs. In a vacuum, those jobs are some of the best, if not the best, in college football, especially LSU with the resources, the track record, all those things. And I think Lane Kiffin will be the number one choice, like Nick Saban is saying, for both those jobs. Top of the wish list. Hope you've been good this year, because when Christmas rolls around here, you're hoping you find a one Coach Kiffin under your tree in Baton Rouge or Gainesville. But my take on this, I don't know how this got lost in translation. My take on this has always been, are we sure that those jobs are better for Lane Kiffin than where he's at right now? Okay? Are LSU and Florida jobs, LSU and Florida in general, better jobs just relative to the rest of the college football pack of jobs that are available right now? 100%. Andy Staples has a ranking of these top jobs available out right now over at on3.com. He's got LSU 1, Florida 2, and I don't think anyone is pushing back against that. But here's the big question for Lane Kiffin. Are they better jobs for Lane? Not are they better jobs in general, but are they better jobs for Lane based on where he's at right now? When I was in middle school, had the option to go to private school or public school. And private school, in general, has a lot more to offer on paper. Probably better teachers, okay? You probably have nicer classrooms. You probably have nicer facilities. You probably have nicer textbooks. You probably have maybe better curriculum. Again, all on paper. But for me personally, in middle school, I thrived in public school. I thrived having a little bit more freedom. I thrived having more people around me that I knew. I thrived in that whole class schedule. So for me, while private school maybe was the better option on paper, for me personally, public school was the better route when it came to my middle school education. And things turned out okay. Same thing is true for Lane Kiffin here. More logo power at LSU in Florida. That's not knocking Ole Miss, just the reality. You look at LSU, you look at Florida, you see that in a high school on a quarter zip. You walk in there as a head coach recruiting, has a little bit extra juice to it. All right, they do have probably as much or maybe better resources, at least from a facility perspective and a just overall money into the school perspective, probably on both those institutions is my guess. Larger track record for success at an LSU and at a Florida. At LSU, especially the last couple of coaches before Brian Kelly won national championships. On paper, those are both better jobs. But the question is what Nick Saban is asking here, I think is 100% fair. Is it a better job for Lane Kiffin than what he has right now at Ole Miss? Because the Ole Miss argument is they're going to give you what you need when it comes to putting your roster together. Lane Kiffin beats to his own drum, has used the portal at a very, very high level. I would argue better than anyone else in college football, and they're winning because of that. Trinidad Shambles wasn't on that roster last year when it got him to the D2 level. Okay? Like, they are maximizing the way they do things right now at Ole Miss. And we keep going back to this point, too. Ole Miss has embraced Lane Kiffin. And I'm not in the business of projecting if Florida or LSU would embrace all the Lane Kiffin isms necessarily. Pete Nakos actually is on the show here a little bit later on today's show, and we talk about that in itself. But I know for a fact Ole Miss has embraced the way that Lane Kiffin does things, the way that he recruits the portal, the way that he tweets, the way that he approaches the media, all those things they have embraced and they have empowered Lane Kiffin on all of those fronts. I'm not saying LSU and Florida wouldn't do that, but I'm saying it's a question. I'm saying it's something you still have to see to believe in some respects. So at Ole Miss, the whole thing is humming right now. We said this before, but I'll say it again. The ceiling at Ole Miss this year is a national championship. This year was not supposed to be the year. Last year was supposed to be the year, and it didn't happen. But this year, with a Division II quarterback and a bunch of new guys through the portal, yet again, you have a chance to go win a national title. So if that's the ceiling this year, logic says it should be the ceiling for years to come, because I don't think you'll be dealing in a much worse situation on paper, that is, going into the season than what you had this year. So with that being the reality, every year should be the year at Ole Miss. Is every year going to be the year LSU and Florida? Yeah, probably. But if it's the same ceiling, why would you leave? Because Ole Miss is already up and running. The thing is already humming over there. At LSU, at the very least, you have to go make sure you retain your roster. You got to get your culture and practices in place. Same deal at Florida. I'm not saying it takes a long time to win at LSU or Florida, but I do know you're already winning right now at Ole Miss. LSU and Florida will both not be in the college football playoff this year. Ole Miss, barring something wildly unforeseen, they will be in the playoff this year. So it comes down to this. I think Lane Kiffin has to decide what he wants. And the unfortunate part for us on this side of things, speaking into a mic and a camera, we don't know what Lane Kiffin wants. We're not inside of his mind. But it comes down to two things. One, does he want a bigger logo? Does he want a little bit more prestige? Is it a big deal that he can go follow in the footsteps of a Steve Spurrier, get a statue out in front of the Swamp? Is that something he wants? Because if it is, it doesn't matter that Ole Miss is humming at this level right now. It does, but again, not necessarily to Lane Kiffin in the context of him taking another job. Now, if it doesn't matter, then stay at Ole Miss and you're in good shape. The other thing that I think he's trying to assess, or is going to have to assess, can he actually do more somewhere else? Because we're all looking at this thing from the outside in and saying, well, Ole Miss is humming this year, therefore common knowledge or logic would present the idea that you should be able to win how you're winning right now in years to come. But I think Lane Kiffin could also give a better maybe pulse to the program there and say, yeah, we're winning right now, we're achieving right now at a high level, but I know I can do this more frequently and more consistently and with more firepower at one of those other schools. So I have maintained this stance. I don't know where this got lost in translation. Let me say it again. I think Lane Kiffin can keep winning at Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin can and will stay at Ole Miss. Not because I know anything intel-wise about LSU or Florida. I just think he seems like an individual who is happy where he's at, and he seems to have maybe tempered a little bit of that ambition to be at some other bigger logo or bigger stadium or whatever. Like, I think he's happy at Ole Miss, and I don't think Lane Kiffin right now at least is in the business of being happier than happy. So he'll get paid. He'll get all the resources he needs from Ole Miss, and he absolutely should. So that is my own take on things. That could change next week. That could change tomorrow. But as of right now, I don't see why, if you're Lane Kiffin, you would have any desire to leave where you're at right now with Ole Miss. Again, unless there's something personal there where he wants to have the logo or the juice behind him when it comes to what either of those schools present. So, great article, again, by Chris Lowe, talking to Nick Saban. A lot of good intel, a lot of good thoughts over there. Make sure you have a membership over at on3.com. A lot of good stuff there from Chris Lowe and the entire team, and you can read that full article over at on3.com.